I'm here. Mm-hmm.
If white immigrants can come to this country 50 years ago with nickels and dimes and no education, and come here and pool their little nickels and dimes and no education, and set up little stores, develop these stores into larger stores, develop this into an industry which creates job opportunities for whites. Since Lincoln was supposed to have freed the black man 100 years ago, and today the black man, according to the government economists, has spending power of $20 billion per year. We feel that with the black man spending $20 billion a year, not setting up any businesses, not creating any industry, not creating any job opportunities for his own kind, he's not in a moral position to point the finger today at the white man and tell the white man that he's discriminating against him for not giving him a job in factories that he himself set up. If the black man has $20 billion, and these so-called Negro leaders are such geniuses that they can integrate white restaurants and integrate white factories and force themselves into that which the white man has set up, they should use this same ingenuity to show the black people how to pool our wealth and set up something of our own. And then we won't have to force our way into his anymore. One more thing I would like to point out concerning what he said about 125th Street. We don't waste our time on 125th Street, but you can reach more people in the street who want to change than you can in the bourgeoisie society, the bourgeoisie church, and the bourgeoisie circles. Our program is directed toward the man in the street. So we spend our time in the street, and what we do with that man, instead of trying to change the white man in your mind and make you accept us, we change the mind of the black man and make him accept himself. And as soon as he accepts himself, he'll solve his own problem. He won't be trying to force himself into your factory and into your bedroom and into your kitchen.
Woo! Did you hear that, brother? Yes, this is something I posted on my Facebook page. Here, let's give you the proper introduction. Where are you? You're with Brother R.A. on CCTV, and that's the CCTV page, and you can actually log in and actually watch this particular show from this particular site. Streaming, you see where it says stream, you can watch channel 9. Okay, boom, boom, boom. I'm on that channel right now. I don't want to have echo, so that's that. And yes, you can also go to my website. It's back up. It's no longer down. And to access my Facebook page, you can hit Facebook right here. And to access Brother R.A. YouTube channel, you can hit YouTube right there. And the other buttons, there's something behind there, something behind there, and there's something behind there too. But that's that on how to access Brother R.A. And just to show you real quick some of the other things that are on my Facebook page, I'm black first. Of course I wrote, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm saying it loud. I'm saying it again. I'm black and I'm proud. Yes, I'm black first. My sympathies are with black. My allegiance is with black. My objectives are black. I'm not interested in being an American because America has never been interested in me. And yeah, these are some videos that I posted, things that are up. They will give you drugs and liquor, then turn around and lock you up for it. Oh, I began my passage to this life 55 years ago tomorrow. That was on May 19th when I posted that. Yes, my parents' anniversary was May 20th, and we get back into the show. Oh, yeah, that's right. Let's see. Maggie Walker, the first woman to found and become president of American Bank, was the daughter of a former slave. She also found a newspaper in a department store. What an impressive woman. Are you able to see that? Okay. And, oh, I have to read this story. I haven't read this article yet, but I got many comments. Even It looks like my Aunt Joyce responded to that. I'm going to have to read what I posted and see what she says. Thank you, Aunt Joyce, for watching, paying attention. Okay, so, boom. Here I am. I am your brother R.A. The brother has a lot to say. And I took care of that. And let me let you know, I will be cutting back to, or getting back to, where Haile left off last week. Haile Gerima, the producer, maker, writer of the story Sankofa, which means go back and retrieve it. He's telling us as indigenous black people to go back and retrieve our past and go deeper within self. But before we get there, it's May 24th, 2017, graduation time. Oh my goodness, cap and gown. Do you see all these flat tops? Is that a statement where you walk around and you got this flat top, so you got a BS or a BA, bullshit or big ass, and you're stopped right there. Flat top, graduation square on your head. You can't go out the picture. No, you stuck in graduation, a new beginning. Yeah, you graduate. No, that's just the beginning. Okay, graduation, new beginning, yeah? So, we as melanin dominant people, and there was something that Peter Brown posted about kicking their children out at 18 so they could have more money. And you're grown at 18. I'm sorry, you're not grown if you haven't learned to tap in to yourself, to raise your self-esteem, self-confidence, and believe in who you are as a melanin-dominant black individual. Parents can't raise their children because they don't know how, they haven't found themselves. Can we, who have knowledge and information, share with those that are still seeking and learning? And is there some type of switch to say, hey, think it's not illegal yet? Can you get 9/10 the world's population to go deeper within themselves and acknowledge the great and magnificent self that you are? What's it gonna take? And Boston, Cambridge, looking at the amount of construction around, it's graduation for Boston and Cambridge. We're going to have a new face of where we're living, but where will you stand in the new Boston, the new Cambridge? Harvard getting all that construction done to their dorms, all the land, empty plots, businesses losing their property, and big corporations coming in and putting in genetic engineering, putting in more graduation, more dorms, more misinformation, more miseducation, Did I say it enough times? More miseducation, more self-hate, more, oh, I have a flat top, I got a degree, I got a BS. And no, my BS is PhD. I got a piled higher and deeper bullshit. Is that what PhD, BS, PhD stand for? Just a question. Where will we be as melanin dominant people in this intellectual arena called Boston, Massachusetts, Cambridge, Harvard? What was Harvard's role again in 1636 when it was established and asked for the permission to establish this institution here in the new colonies? And what was the Jews' roles, or what were the roles of those in the position of power that created the Constitution? George Washington trampled through these grounds, and how were we as melanin dominant people viewed? Just a question. I'm thinking, because it's not illegal, and I think outside the box. See, you can't see my hands. My hands are here, but I started here, but now I'm out here, I'm up here, I'm over there. Ha ha ha. Okay, enough of me running my mouth. I covered my topics. My 10 minutes are up. Haile Gerima, let's get to him back where he left off last week. And yeah, we're gonna go to full screen, enter full screen, and no, I don't want you to enter. You get out of there. Hit the wrong button. Sorry, folks. Hold on 1 second. You delete, get gone. Escape RA, escape. Technical difficulties. I'll get it to work. Hold on, un momento. Haile Gerima is coming up next. Oh, I didn't want that to happen. I had it all queued up. Now we can get to it, but now I have to push it back in and cue it again. That's all right. Nothing but my fuck up. Enter full screen.
Comes from the film Harvest 3,000 Years also, if you should notice this. Because I feel there are in the history of where there's predominantly history does not record those people who it does not identify with. And so I felt when we invoke our ancestors, we have to invoke them like the ancestors figures of Africa, where their statue is dynamically existing. And so basically it is really empowering the class of people that were in the background of the painting of the historical interpretation of Europe and America. And so it's really accentuating my perspective of the people I identify with. In fact, at one point, I was trying to make the whole film where black people were totally in focus and white people were out of focus, because that was how the discrepancy of the class gap was that far. And at a certain point, I outgrew it, but kept the idea of making them statue-like in their appearance. So their inner spirit is grafted well.
How did you come up with the way the film ends, with that assembly of contemporary pantheon of elders?
Well, you see, in this society where I felt the problem is that African descendants do not have the economic power to tell their story and exorcise, however painful that story is to them or to anybody else. And this is the tragedy in America. I think especially the economic structure. Black people do not have the cultural and economic power to exorcise what is immediate to them. And so what is inherited is unexorcised evil is inherited, and it ravages both races. A lot of people say, most governments and parliament, Congress and presidents always come to bandage and bribe the problem. What I felt is needed, like in a society like South Africa and the United States, is the uncensored right to invoke the ignored history, even imagined. I think this is what's very crippling in this country, the fact that Native Americans, Black Americans, Chicanos, people who are not white, do not have the right to tell their story unshaped, unrearranged by the white power structure, and that is the tragedy. In fact, that's what I faced in distribution. That's what happened to me to go to Europe and Africa. Not Europe is better. I'm not trying to romanticize it the way jazz people romanticize Europe. Every society has its own problem.
Yes.
But basically I had to leave the United States because both in Black America and white America, I became a victim of this neurotic legacy of guilt and shame. And both groups wanted to cripple me, to stop the filmmaking. This is my experience. And I knew people were feeding into the most divisive thing, when in fact, it is a liberating factor. If everybody exercised what is important to them without any guardianship from nobody, this country will be in another position. And so basically, for me, remembrance is censored in America. It's not allowed. It's first-hand experience. I was evicted out of a United Arts Theater. No college student would believe what I went through because they think, things are okay if you can make the movie, it can show. It's not true. African Americans do not have the right to tell their story. In the story that is selectively projected by Hollywood, whereby mostly the booty call kind of movie is perpetuated as if there's no dimensional, colorful stories of amazingly humanly enriching contribution. And that, to me, is the tragedy. And I was a victim of that struggle personally. And I'm glad even now, up to now, I go to outside the country to raise money because I couldn't take both polarities of this divisive situations where people are not allowed to exercise what is significant to them. And that is where the saddest thing about this whole very interesting country with many brilliant people, it's amazing how this is not a reality.
Given the kind of institutional barriers that you were just identifying and their impact on market forces that affect how you get your work seen, who gets to see it and so forth, what has been your strategy for not being crippled by that?
Well, it began from my scriptwriting class, at UCLA. I do not accept all human beings tell the story the way Aristotelian formula is all about. Even within the white world, there's dynamics of different narrative, different temperament. But I think what Hollywood has become is it made for its own economic, profit, capitalist interest, it made all the stories simplistically a formula. And what it does is it doesn't do any good in letting other people with different accent, different temperament to tell a story. So the first clash I had with my teachers is the idea of defending my accent. I know my film is imperfect, but I think all human beings come with a thought system that is, image is formulated in the thought system of their brain. And to censor that image and make them tell a story that is already exhausted by Hollywood is a sad commentary. So from the jump, I had to defend my narrative. And my narrative is imperfect, but I know all along from early films when I realized I do not have to take in the Hollywood formula. When I declared that to myself, I began to experience narrative that's more comfortable to me, even if it's intolerable to other people, in the way sound is structured, in the way my logic of thought system, my visual syntax. It's imperfect. I'm the first to admit how much problem I have in this film, even every time I see it. But I know I'm also in the right direction to defend my cultural accent, which is a problem.
Because you own it.
Yes, sir. And not only that, for example, if you take African Americans, if you look at jazz and African Americans, you see an enormous aesthetics emerging. You look into Black American cinema, it is just one kind of exploitation film. And that's what's allowed. But I know African Americans who tell a story. I traveled a great deal in North Carolina. I met old folks, lived with people. There's different narrative thing that goes along with the content. And to me, that itself has to be defended. If somebody, it's not only the content, because I don't know anybody who will say they're going to be the first people to tell a love story. The theme otherwise in this world, theme is love. But I think how we look at love, our own identity, our own perspective is what is critical. And I think that is, for example, the struggle. Non-white people, for example, including white people, because even white narrative is subverted by the Hollywood formula. If you notice, a great deal of intelligent white American filmmakers, they are not happy with the formula. And can you imagine what's happening to the non-white population that has a capacity to do what jazz musicians have done in jazz to do in film?
Can we ask questions on the floor?
Yes, of course.
This was 2002. October 18, 2002.
Go ahead.
By the way, can I just say that I'm from Haiti, and when you are in the field, you think that you are hallucinating. You're not, because the spirits indeed are alive. And as a Marxist, I used to think the same way as well, until I saw the spirit of Agwig, who was a former slave. And when the spirit came alive, bound it. Right? He had to be naked because it was a spirit that was dumped overboard. So those things are very real, but unfortunately, Hollywood, the French, and so forth have turned voodoo, the religion, into, they've demonized it as well. Since you decided to comment on African Americans and their new films, which I think is a form of ghetto, the booty calls, and so forth, can you elaborate a little bit more on this new kind of buffoonery that we see now in the 1990s and so forth, with the old body calls and...
Well, at a certain point, it's sophisticated, but it's the same thing. To me, I know, if you look at black music and black literature to see what is wrong with black cinema. Just look at black literature. Look at the women writers and the amazing narrative wealth. And you say, whoa, why none of it makes into the film world? And so most, I'll tell you, this is the problem. I was talking earlier to, my host folks. I was saying, I'll tell you, fundamentally for capitalism, the new cash crop of slavery are boys, a mentality of boyhood. Not men, not women, just boyhood. So if you look at most black people in Hollywood make boys movie. Most rap music is about boys staying boy, not being a man. And there's a cultural encouragement. It's a cash crop all the way to Singapore to use black boys, and white boys.
Stay in the crib, yo.
Because the more they're boys and don't go into manhood, where the rites of passage will be necessary and be reflective, it would be a problem. And so basically even women filmmakers in Hollywood try to be boy filmmakers. If you know what they attempt, of course, they give it, if they cross-dress it to cover up and make it look like it's a new view. But what Hollywood allows often, unless it escapes the selection process, is often it makes movies about not growing, not being a person ready to face a complex world. And like you have the president is a boy, it's not a man who talks, No, really.
And this is 2002 and he's talking about Trump. Damn.
Men, their wisdom, what they have done, to say beat up, kick ass. Only boys say I'm going to kick ass. Men have to worry about, because to kick ass, they would say to you, man, you bring ass in Washington, D.C. You don't say I'll kick ass and be okay. And so to me, there's this world of boyhood, you know, and people not wanting to grow up to be persons of the world, you know. And so it's not only black film. It's like, can you imagine what is, you know, nobody wonders, how does a Native American looks at the present world? You know, one guy tried to make a film called Follow Me Home, and they wouldn't even let him be distributed. They had to come to learn, to ask me how I did, you know, this film to do the same. You know, it's unfortunate that there are not many, you know, known boys, universities of men, of women who would say, we would like to see how a Native American sees us, instead of saying, be grateful, we made Dances with the Wolf for you, whereby you at least talk Indian, okay? It doesn't matter the rest. The dynamics of the story, I think, especially black kids in America, Indian kids in America, need movies and cultural phenomena that shows them they too matter, they too are history makers. See, black kids, when they watch movie like I did when I was in Ethiopia. You watch movie totally bamboozled to say, John Wayne can do it, but I can't. You know, the contract of Hollywood film is that white people can do it, but black people can't. Vicariously, we try to even experience love, anything we want to. It's always through white characters. That's part of why we're crazy, is we vicariously experience life through white modality. And so the whole point of, for example, not a black kid to grow not seeing that he too mattered, that he too also, like the white kid, is a history maker, that he too can make history. Those are just not available cultural realities to black kids, boys or girls. You know, I teach at Howard, I always tell people, 25 years I have taught there. Every year I have at least 2-3 women students I have who have a problem with their hair. Their first film was about hair. When I tell them, I would like to see a film about, on a gut level, about something that's important to you. And the first film they want to do is hair. And you say to yourself, who attacked her hair when she was 7? Television, white supremacy, etc. And people are ravaged. You're dealing, after I'm made a shell, you can write all kinds of books, but to defend me when I'm a kid, and I was telling you earlier, what hurts me as a filmmaker in this country at this time, you know, when I watched the McCarthy era with my film classmate students, I never thought America would experience again what they went through, the way they were talking in the classroom. I thought they were learning what to be watchful of. And you look at it now, and I say, okay, grown-ups, I don't care. What worries me is this soundtrack of the State Department, the Congress, the George Bush, this soundtrack of, you know, people who barely have a high school mentality. Their soundtrack is raising millions of white kids scared. I hate to live 20 years from now when they come to power scared like they're scaring them, because the most dangerous generation is a scared generation, and scaring them, you know, grown-ups we can interpret and say, okay, I don't like to see that movie. Little kids are being terrorized in this country, and the defense, the radio, television, nobody defends them from the soundtrack. I have 5 kids. Every day I'm fighting, including NPR, for my kids not to hear what they shouldn't hear. The soundtrack that makes them not be in charge of themselves, that they are at the mercy of some demonized, as if we don't know who manufactured these demons that we're talking about. And so it's a very tragic time. But again, the crux of the matter is the mass media. It's the cultural. Most black people, economically, they're aware they want to vertically move up, for example. They do not know that to vertically move up, you need to also vertically elevating cultural phenomena concurrently. Power does not come just by money. Power comes by cultural consciousness also. And so the Hollywood black people, what they do is do what they're told what's permitted. You don't know how terrorized These black people are. I see them in conferences in Europe, terrorized black people. They keep admiring my impoverished world because they have no guts even to start the little thing I've started of being independent in my own films, owning my own films, because I do not believe anybody I should have permission to sing a song from nobody. The badness and goodness of the song, the badness and goodness of the song should be the determining factor. And so basically, you have a Hollywood black cinema that is not of black cinema. The black community is not with it. That's why they're always panicking. Even now, the Academy Award, I know why the Academy Award went this way. It goes, if you go into the psyche of white America and black America, you understood in time of crisis, black people move up and down anyway. And that is what happened. How else would it take 40 years for somebody to get something in Hollywood? When Denzel was good over 10 movies, he was a good actor. And suddenly he's in this movie, but they have to deal with him because they have to deal with black America's loyalty. And that is not known in how sophisticatedly it transactions itself in the race dialogue, which is silent, not the obvious. And so for me, Hollywood black people are really, I wish you see them, how pathetic they are. Don't look at the ebony and the Jebony look. These people are scared to talk what they have to say. They're scared of people. And I'll tell you, it's a tragic time. They would not criticize Hollywood. They say, if I want to work again, I better not say nothing. Not that it's easier for white actors, because white actors, there are few white actors we know who paid the price, who said, I'll speak on this issue. So I don't, usually it's Hollywood black people. It's better you hear poetry jam in the black community. You get what is happening in that community than one Hollywood movie that is like, it looks different this time, but the arrangement is the same. And it doesn't go beyond Driving Miss Daisy and Amistad. It's always between that. As long as you drive Miss Daisy, what is it all about? But the idea is there are many black intellectuals, there are men and women who have ideas, who have relationship problems, who are lovers and haters, who will be centrals without washing for nobody, driving nobody. There's stories in the black community. And so I don't know, but it's just half of what I had to say.
Yes.
The first time I saw this movie was last year in my undergrad at BC, and it was enlightening both and upsetting because I was upset that I had to wait till my senior year of college to watch this movie, but enlightening in that it changed the way I see film and the way I judge and watch images that are being ingrained in my head. What I would like to ask you is, I'm in the School of Education now here at Harvard, and I like when you said you took the time to find out how these spirits wanted their story to be told. Now that the movie is out, how do we as educators, for those who are in ed school or in anywhere, present this movie and teach it to students in the right way, just as you went to these different places in the world to find and pick out the things that gave this movie breath? How do we do that with this movie?
Well, one, let me just say, usually language is very important. Teaching is wrong. The word teaching itself, that's why everybody pays tuition without questioning why they should pay for education. So exchanging is what's important. Information. And often information, you're ripe for a certain information when you're ripe. People went out of their way to see this movie. It made history in this country. People who knew how to hunt down, people who are as hungry as I am. When I made the film, I didn't think 10 people would see it. But my wife was my partner, a filmmaker. We said, we got to get rid of this thing out of me. 9 years I carried it, I had to get it out. When people lined up, I was shocked. In Berlin, if you look at, in Berlin, the whole American press made us non-existent. We were in competition, made out of basement and watched. The film was made from a basement production company. And when we hit Berlin, we knew that people in power were unhappy for whatever their legacy, whatever they projected. There was this white lady in New York who said to me, you made this film to blame white people, a very intelligent white woman. And I said to her, listen, respectfully, if you think I lived 50 years of my life to someday make a movie to blame you, you must live on another planet because you are insulting me that I have nothing else to do but live to someday go through changes all over Europe to find money to make a movie. That's a bad, arrogant perspective. You need to just come down from that horse and see if you can get something that, if you can't, maybe someday we'll talk to you. But don't ever think that I'm thinking all along how to make a movie to blame you. I outgrew that 20 years ago. And so you have to know right moment, what jazz musicians call, a right moment is very important. You came in contact with this film when the moment is ripe. What you have to do is infect other people. The idea that, I believe we're vessels of the past. I do know. When I started this film, I was arrogant, film school student, like with light meter to everything. Now I really don't care. I don't care if I never make a movie again because there's more to filmmaking. There's human beings in the process. And so for me now, the fact that we are vessels, we should even be humble that some of the things we're saying is not even of ours. We need to calm down a little bit and say, what makes me feel for this thing a certain way? There must be unresolved legacy for all of us. Of course, if you look at the way we're divided, in South Africa, this woman told me, Gerima, she said, they have pre-programmed us to kill each other. She said, there's no way out but killing each other. And it's so sad. I knew she said that. It taught me so much she said that. It inspired me about a film script even. But she's saying it because it is there. You can't say it shouldn't be said. When it's said, it makes you reflective. It makes you think the next thought system, because we're human beings, we can't kill all of each other. We have to know how to rectify the legacy of the past. Not hide it, not bandage it, not censor it, not avoid. Can you imagine now if the television station was in the black community listening to the poets? Can you imagine what is being read, what kind of poetry is read about 911, whatever you would say, damn, black folks are really amazing, is what I say. You go to these communities, you hear poetry to make you think another way, not the establishment way. And so think of it this way. You're ripe. That's why you got this opportunity. Some people have walked. I showed this film in prison, by the way, and in Ohio, in a federal prison. Prisoners, the best film critics since this film came out are prisoners. You would not imagine. I've taped it. We're working on a book that's been for a long time. But anyway, in this whole chapter, when they talk, you don't think, what the hell? The best brain of black America is in this prison. And one kid started crying. He was a young man. And he said, all this is like something else. He said, I want to tell you, I want to confess something, he said. He said, when this film opened in Chicago, he said, I saw a film called Fresh, and I walked out and I saw this film. I went to check it in, but it was very slow for me because I was on a fast highway. It was too slow for me. And he says, seeing it now in this confinement, and he started crying, all these men start crying. He says, to see it in the circumstances and how much it is so important to me, it didn't occur to me when I was in the fast lane in Chicago. Right moments. Because if we heard our elders when we should hear them, we wouldn't be in circumstances we are in anyway. Yes.
I'd like to get your perspective, if you please give it to us, on two things. Number one, after you manage to get the money to make a good Afrocentric film, the fact that there is usually far less money and far fewer theaters in distribution so that more people can see it. And the second thing is, I first saw that movie when you brought it to Brookline in '93, and I have the video. But in all of this time, with all of the good independent movies that have come out, why is it, from your perspective, that most African people in the diaspora haven't acted upon the lessons in your movie, in Lumumba, in A Dry White Season, in just basically good independent movies?
Well, basically, I'll tell you, most black people in America, like for example, black farmers in the South are the richest population of the black community. Black people are black people with money often are feudal in their philosophical world outlook. Money, gather, and then the generation goes to court to squander it. It does not have a progressive capitalist idea. For example, to me, a progressive capitalist, you can see white capitalism, for example, knows it exists in coexistence with cultural phenomena. It's not accident Mobil sponsors many of the things it sponsors. There's a reciprocation. You have to have the cultural state of mind to uphold a certain economic structure. But the black capitalists, so-called black capitalists, are feudal by world outlook. They do not think of culture. For example, they think their kids do not have to be nurtured culturally speaking. Because going to education, which in fact, oftentimes black kids go to school not to learn about themselves, but to worship white Buddhist structures, historical structures, superstructures of Buddhism in white America, Jefferson, all these things. They never study in any class about themselves. Often it is that white people are history makers and black people are appendage to that. So the black kid is not culturally nurtured to be a history maker. So he inherits wealth. What does he become? He puts it on booty call if he ever made any movie. And so to me, the tragedy, it's not only here, by the way, Brazil, in Africa, South Africa now. I go a lot, I'm about to go to South Africa to cultivate those folks with so-called money, for them to understand that their children, if they're not culturally nurtured, if their brain is not nurtured, the very fact that they have bought them 1,000 Nikes don't make them human beings. And so this we have not yet comprehended. I'll tell you that. There's not a single African-American production company. There's not a single African-American owned theater in this country. And challenge me. There's not a single black film producer who can greenlight any movie. It's all window dresses. Magic Johnson, Sony. Magic Johnson is only a protective shield for Sony to reap its capitalist venture with black loyalty, because it looks like, who want to go beyond Michael Jackson? He's so big in the theater, you don't question who owns it. I have shown my film there. Though Magic Johnson owns it, I had to deal with Sony, the nitty-gritty of the economic arrangement. And so basically, in the 1920s, in the 1930s, in the 1940s, African Americans owned more theaters, more distribution company, more production company, and that's when they made a movie they can historically be accountable about. After that, it is the total destruction of the idea of independent ventures to make films about their own humanity. It does not exist now. I will actually tell you, I am actually the only poor, insignificant distribution company who can't do neither, because I do not have the necessary racial dynamics for cash flow or loan in banks. It's like we always say, when we're students, we own our film. You also have to have a relationship with the banks. Bank relationship, whatever you think, for example, a white filmmaker and a white banker, is credible if they enter in a very risky business of film. Film is risky to everybody, but it's credible for two whites to go into business than a black guy who is already has a legacy of not being credible in the perspective of this highly educated Yale graduate or Harvard graduate producer who's a boy, oftentimes, who was not turned into, like, say, I think this is too much a boy culture. I want grown-up men culture, not the oppressive, by the way. Please, women, don't beat me up. I'm not talking about the old men stuff. I'm talking about women and men who have to know this world will be erased, because life is never, it was easy only then. It's going to be more complex. The world is going to be more complex to all of us. Nobody's going to have it easy. And we need human beings that are capable of facing complex situations and not make trigger-happy quick decisions to kill all of us. We need people who are totally culturally stabilized people. And what is the cultural diet that creates that? It does not exist. The cultural diet is escapist. Spectacle escapist. All of us like to forget pain, but I'll tell you, it is the most dangerous world coming up, and however big America is, let me tell you, you look at these countries, in every, when in Egypt, for example, the most repressive country that has killed anybody that tried to change the country peacefully, they have hanged them all. Saudi Arabia. Look at all this so-called demonized population come from, in a country where they have no right to change their own government. Why? The United States say, no, we don't approve this kind of change. We approve his. And then everybody makes the deductive world, and the world becomes a simple cowboy and Indian situation of what people want, or the kind of Bush people that want a world that... So I'm saying, really, I don't want to be politically like, most of you know it, that's why you came to see the movie, but I'll tell you, if you don't march, oftentimes, globalization, people march, World Bank, IMF, nobody marches on Hollywood. The most ideologically warped colonizer of all the world. Latin Americans do not call it just hydrogen bomb. They say it comes in a village and surgically changes everything. It unglues everybody's past by false comparison of modern versus, Hey, some people are saying, fundamentalism comes about because I don't have power over my life anymore. I become fundamentalist. In America, there's capitalist fundamentalism, the hubcap of fundamentalism is the United States. People have entrenched themselves. I know white people who think black people are their problem and they want to kill them off. That's fundamentalism. And so basically, how do you dislodge from that? From cultural struggle that every young person should fight and never accept a racist movie shown in this country, should march and let know the filmmakers, instead of saying, well, this is what they love. On your behalf, they make a movie. This is what they like. You march to take it. I think the cultural dynamics has to change. Especially privileged people should know that there is people who left outside this paradigm, that black people more and more do not go to movies. What made Sankofa a hero is, I'll tell you, there's some places where you can't rationally discuss black people will kick you. They just protect it like it has to be protected. In many cities we went, they created a Sankofa family. We never paid them. In Philadelphia, Chicago, they create a Sankofa family. They protect the movie. We rent a place. They do many things. Why? Because out of a desert of hunger, one movie came imperfectly tackling not all of our hunger, but a glimpse of our hunger. I'm so scared for this movie to be burdened with so much of our need. I'm so scared because as a filmmaker, I can't trip. It's the most imperfect film, from narrative to many things. And yet the hungry people who are as hungry as I am, see this film with all its cumbersome responsibility of being the only film. And that is, I think, shows you how the territory is full of hunger.
I think that's a great set of challenging thoughts for tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I think we're supposed to turn over to whoever's going to make the announcement for starting again tomorrow. And thank you again.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Sure.
Thank you.
Actually, we were asking what was happening. Let me tell you what's happening, because it's very relevant to the last thing you were saying. We are deeply involved, meaning the center where I work, in a proposal that will build millions.
Haile, I just wanted to ask you more specifically to elaborate on your character Joe and his schizophrenia, dealing with either the mixed parentage or the Christianity or both. Is it characteristic of us as black men in America? is a characteristic of just black men, period, you, me?
It's in general. I'll tell you, in fact, when I went showed it, it hasn't opened yet, but I showed it for a test showing in South Africa. In the colored population, you know, the meaning of the character of Joe changed once we start to see the colored population look at it. And so basically it is really, you know, anybody who's made to not accept himself. That's where it comes from. So if you don't accept yourself, then so wouldn't you accept your mother or your father? And so it's really a symbolic representative of people who, for example, have accepted a demonized Africa and are ashamed of it instead of, you know, using it as a departing point for pride. And so it's really on all levels it changes. As I was saying, in South Africa it changed the meaning when the colored population saw the movie.
Is it a deliberate disparity between Shango and Joe? Shango knowing his heritage, knowing who he is, where he's going, but just being enslaved and juxtaposing him to Joe? Is that the
No, you know, if you like this, we didn't get to talk about, for example, the part of the, you know, what didn't succeed in the film is also this relay character development. For example, if you look at the women, you have Shola, you have Nunu, and you have Lucy. You have three women in line. And then if you look at, for example, the men, you have Joe, you have Noble Ali, you have Shango. And so instead of sudden one person becoming changed, the second person picks up where the first person leaves. And so you have a relay character development, but all have the germs of each other. And so Shango is the ultimate of it, the one who has gone through the process. Because I don't think there's a sudden acceptance of Africa. People, if Africa was demonized, we will all be ashamed. As I was saying, I was ashamed of Africans in Africa, not here, just while I was in Africa, because you know, the portrayal and the information I have of Africans is as people who do not control their own historical moment. They don't do anything except that they follow a white hunter or something. So basically we all grow up hating our own background, our own parents. And it's not a phenomenon only to, there's a great deal of, for example, in Europe, population that are from, you know, different parts of the world that have culminated as a group in Europe. It applies to them too. And also in South Africa. So it's really not specific, but you know, even now, for example, you look at the religion, the story could take place, I planned to shoot it in Louisiana, but I didn't want the geographical location to be a point. I didn't want black folks to say it happened there, it didn't happen here. And so I confused the location a lot.
And the locations were, I know Jamaica and Ghana were two other places. Did you say Guadeloupe earlier?
No. The location actually, I finally ended up in Jamaica and Ghana.
And Ghana.
Yeah.
Okay, you at the end of the film, you kept going back to the one of those dungeons. I didn't know. I wouldn't. If I looked at it again, I'd probably say that might be Cape Coast Castle or that might be Elmina.
It's Elmina. Elmina and Cape Coast I alternatively use, but the one I kept wanting people to think is Elmina because that was the first slave fort built.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see.
I just want to say thank you. And the film was perfect.
Thank you, my brother.
The spirit.
Thank you.
Spirit.
Those who were here before us.
Okay, this is another lecture. I only get about 4 or 5 minutes left.
Whatever.
I don't know if I really want to listen to his introduction, but Haile's on this particular panel.
Who died.
Actually, he does pour libation, and libation is honoring the ancestral spirit, bringing the balance of who we are. I don't know if that's actually going to get shown or not.
The gathering of this kind, where we are celebrating rhythm and ritual and ancestors and memories. I think it's a very nice thing. that we spare a few moments.
Actually, Haile said in some of the locations they had to pour libation on him and the staff and the crew before they could begin filming Sankofa.
I'm going to chant for just a few minutes in honor of Ogun, who is Africa's divinity.
This is the cultural aspect of who we are as melanin-dominant black people that we don't tap into. We tap into somebody else's spirituality and nonsense and bullshit by saying, oh, I need the blood of Jesus. No, you don't need the blood of Jesus. You need to tap into who you are culturally. You need to tap into exactly who you are as melanin-dominant black people.
Ǹjẹ́ bí ó sí onírè àròkọ, ǹjẹ́ bí ó sí onírè àyẹ̀nà, bí ó sí onírè àtẹnugbódógbó ṣáájú. Gbogbo jàmọ́ tó dúró kẹ́ sámọ sàmì àṣẹ ní òfo ní ròfo ẹ̀yin ò sì ní ìṣàwúre lẹ́yìn gbèsè. Kóró ni wọ́n lùlù bàjẹ́ ọlọ́run ọba òní jẹ́ ọdún. Èyí tó bá sì dún ọmọ olúwa rẹ̀ ní odò ní ìṣàwúre lẹ́yìn gbèsè. Gbogbo wa pátápátá lágbádùn porongodo 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 ìlà sórí ìsànláre. Ọmọ tẹ́ tá a bí lọ́kùnrin wọn ò ní kú, èyí tá a bí lóbìnrin wọn ò sí. Bí ikú ní olúwa ẹni kankan nínú wa àwa òkú ní wọn.
I got 15 seconds. Cultural chant, tap into who you are as melanin-dominant black people. I think we hope well already. That's all I had to say today. Peace and blessings. Find out who you are.